in luring, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to do that with food because I don't want to use food forever. And I go, that's fair. Because luring is, we have something repetitive that the dog follows. That makes very kind of sense, right? But when we're talking about generalization, and this is where a lot of people, I think they say the dog's disobedient. I don't agree. I think it's a clarity problem. So they'll go, on the one end, they'll go food, lure, and then they move that from only a lure, meaning there's no food in their hand. So they'll do a sit, right? So they'll do a sit with food here. So they'll start in the stand position, go over the dog's head, like I said to you, and the dog sits with the food. Okay. And then they do that for, I don't know how many times. They think it's 1,000, but it's not. You know, they're like, it's maybe 50, and they go, yeah, dog should get it. So then they do that same thing, but without food in their hand. Then the dog sits, because it can't help it. What often happens, they get happy, and they're like, oh, look, my dog did it. But they don't let the dog know that was it. They don't use the direct marker. And then the dog goes, I didn't get rewarded. What the dog then does is very simple. Oh, that must not be a real cue. So unless the food is part of the cue, it's not the real cue, it's a fake one. Because remember, with the leave it, the dog doesn't get rewarded. So they go, oh, when I'm not getting rewarded, that's not the answer. So what happens is it's a generalization problem. When they do it without the food, the dog goes, no, that's a fake one. That doesn't mean sit, because it doesn't look the same. It's a small change. Food, no food. I still do the same movement. And the dog goes, yeah, but that's a fake one. That's not real.
And so what? Does that mean that they then they'll stop doing it?
They won't do it unless you have food in your hand. So people will say to me, my dog only sits and does stuff when I have food. And I go, well, of course, because you taught them that's part of the cue.
That's what's happening with the loose leash.
Yeah, I bet. So it's not a disobedient problem. And some people call it bribery. They go, oh, I've got to bribe the dog. So there's two things in obedience: timing and dosage. Okay, that's what we work on. Clarity and trust. So when we work on that, all right, so it's just saying it. Timing, okay, which is that marking it. Remember 2 seconds, right? Plus dosage. Dosage is what we spoke about last time. Is the risk versus reward. Is the risk with the reward, like luring a puppy, let's say, up some steps. And the puppy goes, I don't know, these steps look very scary, and I don't know if your food's worth it. Also the opposite. Oh, I really want to chase that quail, but you yelling at me is not, I know you're upset, but who cares? That rewards with the risk, okay? So the same thing, if you think about it from a generalization perspective. Clarity.
So that means there you're going really clearly with the, when they're sitting, you're doing the yep.
Because you're saying that's it. Because now I've removed food out of my hand. So the dog goes, oh! So even if the food's not part of it, that signal, that movement, or that vocal cue means the same thing, but on floor. And the dog goes, why didn't you say so? Okay. Then the next thing is trust. Trust is, am I going to get paid? Well, I don't see the food in your hand. Am I going to get paid? Yeah, not always, but most of the time. And they'll go, yeah, I'll take that risk. If I never get paid, what does happen, there's this little trick.
So you still have to keep every now and again putting the food in there.
What does happen though is there's a little magic thing that happens where the actual action becomes the reward itself. Like, oh my goodness, they're so happy with me. I love it. I don't need to get paid anymore because you being very happy is my payment. It doesn't work for everything.
And does it get to a point with them where it's just sort of like so automatic? It comes like almost like it's just almost sort of programmed into them.
It can, but
like
just
a muscle memory type of thing.
I like how you said that. But what is the common rule? You don't use it, you lose it. So unless you stop using it, you'll lose it. So yes, you can have it automatic, but you could also lose quality. So quality, like a proper quick sit, becomes more sluggish, or your obedience becomes worse because they used to do it for 10 minutes, but they'll only do it for 2. You know, so it depends. So remember, whatever you're paying, that's what you want. That's strengthening. So just like muscles, if I don't exercise, I get weak. So a lot of guys, you know, they'll come when I used to be a PT and they go, I used to be so good. I used to run around. I used to do 10 push-ups, snap easy. I used to do this and that. Well, what happened? Oh, you know, I stopped. And I was like, it's still there. But then it takes the brain and the body back to get up to that capacity. And it's very much the same. So that's the first thing, is that generalization with food, without food. Vocal with no visual cue. Visual cue with no vocal. And it's like, yeah, all these things are still the same. It's just little pieces of the picture still the same.
Yeah.
And the dog goes, why didn't you say so?
Yeah.
So that's where I usually start with clarity, where I go, does the dog know that it's the same thing? Yeah. Or have you taught clarity with no food in my hand? It's a trick. Ha! Don't do it. And they'll go, yeah, no, I won't do that. You trick me again. Yeah. They're not that dumb. Yeah. In fact, and it's not that humans are dumb. It's that we are not paying attention. Yeah. That's why. Yeah. So then they go, no, food is part of the cue.